Hi everyone, it's Rax. Been playing Diablo 4 for a million years, and a lot of people are talking about ways to improve the game as I have before. And I want to talk to you about one subject that's very specific today about all the ways that Diablo 4 slows you down. And I think if they fixed all of this, I think the game would feel a million times better. Now, here's what I'm not talking about. Before anybody gets all crazy, I know the first thing that everybody's going to think, and I'm going to say, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I do not think that the game should feel like Diablo 3. I'm not talking about the combat pace and stuff like that with like the monk in Diablo 3 where you zip through everything, you destroy everything instantly, the whole thing is cleared in 30 seconds and you get 1,000 legendaries. That is absolutely not what I'm talking about. I am super okay and I want it to happen that the combat is slower paced and more methodical. I'm going to talk about ways that the game slows you down for absolutely no reason that just drives you crazy. And I'm sure there's 1,000 more examples that people can come up with besides me. So let's start with an easy one, right? Let's start with one that's pretty obvious. Let's start with mounts. Now, they have already publicly said that mounts are bad, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to let you charge through barricades. But that is a nice change, but we need a lot more for mounts than that. First of all, why can't we use our mounts in town? I've heard 1,000 different reasons. I don't need you to list me 1,000 different reasons. I've heard them all. But let me use my mount in town. None of the reasons are good enough. They get stuck on everything. They need to always go at max speed. The moment that people find out that your mount doesn't go at max speed unless you put your mouse cursor at the end, it's because of console. I know, I've heard it all 1,000 times. They should just move at max speed by default. One way that you get slowed down. All right, let's talk about another one. I got a lot of them. Let's talk about the seasons, the seasonal theme. Now, I said this before it even came out, and well, my prophecy came true. It's just way too slow. So, what do? You kill a malignant monster. Then, slowly, their heart rises from the ground. When it finally forms, you can click it. Then it slowly goes back into the ground. And then the elite slowly comes back up, and then you kill it. I would beg Blizzard, never again can we have a seasonal theme like this. Cannot possibly be that slow. It needs to happen instantly. That elite is malignant. They're really strong. They're really scary. They're glowing. You kill it, it drops the heart. You're done. That's what it needs to be. It's way, way too slow, and it honestly drives me insane. Okay, let's talk about just like some basic functionality of things. Okay, and I'm going to give you two examples. If you can't tell, I have another little document over here that I'm reading off of. Functionality, spelling is hard. All right, functionality of something. Let me give you an example. What you do in the end game is you chain run nightmare dungeons. Sometimes, if you feel like it, you go do a Tree of Whisperers. Sometimes you go do a Helltide. Sometimes you go do a world boss. But in general, you're doing nightmare dungeons, right? Okay, well, let me tell you something that happens. If you're in a nightmare dungeon, you killed the boss, you upgraded your glyph, and you plug a nightmare dungeon key, the first thing it does is it ports you out of the dungeon, right? Okay. So then the next thing that you need to do is you need to hit tab on your map, and then it's not going to lock in on where this nightmare dungeon is. You're going to have to go find it, click on the door, then it's going to port you another loading screen outside of the nightmare dungeon. Then you have to walk into the nightmare dungeon, and there's another loading screen, and then you go. So that's the most common way that people use things. So why, of course, the way that you could do it the fastest is just if I plug the next nightmare dungeon, port me from the boss room in this nightmare dungeon inside of the next nightmare dungeon. But it doesn't do that. But it changes. If you instead kill the boss, and then you port, let's say, the Tree of Whispers, because the blacksmith is right by the waypoint. A lot of people go there. You just go to blacksmith, you do a quick salvage, and then you plug the nightmare dungeon, and then you hit tab, it zooms in on the nightmare dungeon itself. You don't have to go find it. It saves you a few seconds. A lot of people are going to say, Rax, you're being so particular. This is so stupid. It matters. I'm telling you, these things matter. Every malignant monster, when you lose 5 seconds, every single time, you lose way more than 5 seconds doing this over and over and over. This is why people say the game doesn't feel good. It's not because the combat is way slower than D3. That has nothing to do with it. The game should come down from D3. D3 is just an instant delete of everything. It's when you're done with a greater rift, you pour it out and you plug the next greater rift. You plug it instantly. The same thing with PoE. You plug a new map instantly. It's the functionality. It's all these different things that they can improve. Okay, what about items? Okay, I don't even need to explain this to you. You guys already know what I'm going to say. You run one nightmare dungeon, you have a full inventory of yellows, and you have to look through them manually. There's just absolutely no way to do it faster. They could be the best item that you've ever found. So you have to look, or you have to be okay with giving it up. Blizzard has already addressed this. They know it's a problem. They already said so, but I'm going to put it in the video anyway. This probably slows you down more than anything. In the end game, you got to look at your yellows. It takes forever. We need a loot filter or something. They said that they're going to give us one. Thank you. We need that. Now, another one. Okay, we got to talk about this one. Events. Okay, now this is the one that drives me absolutely crazy. You go to the last stand event inside of a dungeon. There's 3 people. Oh, help us, please, help us, help us. You click on them. Oh, we're in trouble. Help us, help us. I'd love to help you. Okay, there's monsters coming. Help us, help us. Then a 60-second timer starts. And if you succeed, if you keep them alive, the 3 little guys in the room, kill everything, and the 3 guys are alive, guess what happens after the 60 seconds is over and you're fighting? Each one of them thanks you and throws you a little gift. And after all that RP is done, then the chest and the reward for completing the event happens. This entire idea, everything about it needs to be completely abolished. The second you step into the room or the second you click the guy, the event has to start. And the second the 60 seconds is over or whatever the timer is, it needs to say thanks and drop you your reward instantly. You lose so much time. It's cool to see the RP once. For most people, not even once, but let's say once. Every time after that, it's just wasting your time. It drives me insane. Let me talk to you some other things about events. So Blizzard in their dungeons has objectives, right? It does not exist in PoE maps. It does not exist in Diablo 3. You have to pull the 2 levers. You have to hold the little orbs. You have to, and bring them to the pedestal, whatever. I think every single one of these events needs to be shortened. And here's what I mean. Let me give you an example. Dead Man's Dredge. I know these dungeons. I've ran them 1,000 times. Dead Man's Dredge. After you get past the middle part, I believe it's free 7 prisoners. 7 people got captured. You have to walk around and free 7 people and click the little stick and hope that nothing hits you and somebody always hits you. Like, free the prisoners needs to be capped at like 3. And I would love to free them way faster. You're sitting there, click, 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 click. Another thing that drives me insane with the you pick up 3 little orbs. So you have to bring them to the pedestal. You have to, if you pick up the first orb and you walk to the next orb instead of walking to where you drop them off. Be right back 1 second. Sorry, I'm back. I had to go take my $2 Asmongold pizza out of the oven. By the way, I watched that video. I think he made a Totino's pizza. I love those. I had those as a kid. Would still eat them as an adult. Totino's. Anyway, we'll have that later while it's cooling off. Little orbs. Okay, so you have 3 of them. You have 3 of them in the map, right? You pick up the first one, and if you don't walk to the place where you place it down, if you accidentally walk to your second orb, guess what you can't do? You can't pick up that second orb. You have to swap them or drop one on the ground, and it forces you to then drop one of them off and walk all the way back and pick it up and then walk all the way back and drop it. Why can't we hold multiple balls at once? You already let us hold 30 swords and 30 pairs of boots and rings in our backpack. We're not losing any, immersion here. Why can't we hold multiple events, multiple objects at the same time? If we're walking around the map collecting them, that way we can go in the middle and deposit the 3 things and be done. All of these things are slowing this down dramatically. And there's a lot of other examples. If they would take another look at events and make them go way faster, we would feel much better. Okay, another thing about the bosses. This needs to be set. Let's talk about as many things as we can think of. So the thing about the bosses that drives me insane is a lot of times in a Nightmare Dungeon, when you'll kill them, they die, and then you sit there like 5 seconds until the game finally understands you did kill the boss. Ta-da! And then it drops the bubble of where you can upgrade your glyph. It's another 5 seconds lost. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, something like that. And then another thing, that they did address. They did make it a little bit better, but we do need to look at again is dungeon design. I believe it's Core Valar, the one of the nightmare dungeons right here. I believe it's that one. If it's not that one, I'm sorry. I think it's Core Valar, where beginning is a free the prisoners. I stepped in and I could walk left or right. I went right. Da 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 da. Freeing prisoners. Ha ha ha. Finally got to the part to go to the next part. Oh, guess what? I'm missing one prisoner. And guess what? It was one step to the left at the entrance, but I couldn't see the prisoner from the entrance. So what happened was I made a 50-50 decision at the entrance. I chose right. I did everything that I possibly could along the way. And because I made that 50-50 decision, I was penalized to walk all the way back, free the prisoner, walk all the way back to consider going through the next dungeon. I actually don't know what's the best play there. You could walk back, you could re enter the nightmare dungeon by hitting leave dungeon and eating 2 load screens, or probably the best option is just to plug another nightmare dungeon key. We got to take situations like that and make it impossible for it to be that bad where you backtrack the entire way. I am sure, and I hope everybody will help me in the comments, that you can think of some other very obvious ways that you feel slowed down in the game. I'm not asking you to speed up the combat. I'm not asking you to make it like D3 where we zip along, but in D3, I can go through my motions of playing the game. And I only use D3 as an example because that's the game I used to play. This applies in a lot of different games. In Lost Ark, if I want to chain run Chaos Dungeons, I can chain run Chaos Dungeons. It's everything. I need Diablo 4. It can be a slower game, and I think that would be great. But I need you to stop slowing me down in these ways, and I think the reception of the game is going to go up dramatically. What do you think? Do you think I'm just a stupid idiot and I have it all wrong? Or do you think that this is the exact reason, not the exact reason, but one of the main reasons why it drives you crazy? Let me give you an example, something to think about. How much better did you feel about Nightmare Dungeons when they finally let you port there? Remember the old days 1 month ago when we used to have to ride there every time? And everyone was just like, Nightmare Dungeons absolutely suck. When they let us port there, even though the port that they introduced wasn't great, at least it's 1,000 times better. Once that felt better, man, I don't know about you guys. It wasn't. I didn't wake up every morning and say, "Yay, Nightmare Dungeons," but it at least felt tolerable to me. It felt significantly better. I hope Blizzard is looking at these things and looking for some adjustments by season 2 Copium. Please stop slowing us down with everything. Let us play the game without being bogged down by backtracking or RP or getting our mount stuck or the bosses don't understand that the game doesn't understand the boss is dead. If we free 100 prisoners instead of 3, it takes 100 seconds to free the prisoner. Help us, please. I'm asking nicely. Constructive criticism. Help us, Blizzard. Thank you.